Well, getting ready to take off here. This will be, honestly, whose fault is it? Part 4, I believe. It'll be the final one, I think, unless more stuff happens tonight. But check the news here. Saw some more things that happened. Some police officers were shot. A retired St. Louis, I believe it was St. Louis, police officer who was working as a security guard was I think they said he was 72, something like that. Why does a retired police officer have to work at that age? Maybe we should look into how we pay officers too. He was killed. Some other things have happened, and I just think it's going to get worse if everybody just doesn't call for everybody to go home and stop. Let all the quote unquote peaceful protesters go home, and then the cops can round everybody up who doesn't go home, the looters and all that kind of stuff. So here's the final point I want to make. If we didn't have crime and criminals and drug gangs and people like the looters in this society, we wouldn't need police, or we wouldn't need as many of them as we have. Can you follow this? Do you have any common sense to you at all? If we didn't have punks like the ones who threw down the little girl to take her Jordans, if we didn't have punks like the drug dealing gangs in Chicago, which I think they said there was something like 48 people shot, 17 of them dead this weekend in Chicago. If we didn't have all that kind of stuff, we wouldn't need the police, a police force, or a police force as large as it is. If we didn't have morons that can go out to the bars and get drunk and drive home drunk, we wouldn't need the police officers. So it goes back to what I said, responsibility, personal responsibility. You got to start teaching personal responsibility in this country to people as they're growing up. And that's why I'm saying, whose fault is it? If we didn't have all the types of people, you see those looters out there and everything, if we didn't have those types of people, we wouldn't need police. And all the other types of people out there who just can't seem to get their shit together. We wouldn't need the police. If we didn't have the police, can you imagine how much worse it would be right now in this society? Look what they do when there is a police force. Look at all the drug gang shit that goes on in Chicago and all the shootings that go on, and there is a police force. Can you imagine if there was no police? It's a sad thing to say, but can you imagine that? You would think here in America, that's why I say I've never been more ashamed of this country than I am right now with all this stuff going on. The behavior of people is unbelievable. Who has raised these kids to be out doing this stuff? Didn't their parents teach them anything? Teach them better? But the point is, personal responsibility for ourselves and in our communities. Look at the crime that goes on in African American communities. Now, are the cops the reason for the crime? Or is the crime the reason for the cops? Be honest. If all that crap wasn't going on, you would never have an incident or incidents like we've had with police killing people. Or at least it would be very rare. So it's like, what came first, the chicken or the egg? Are the cops? Did we build a police force when there was no crime, and that somehow caused crime? Is that what you want to try and say? Or is it because people commit crime and bear no responsibility for their own actions and their own bad behavior that we need police? You can point the finger at society and the cops all you want, but it doesn't fly. It's people's behavior. Straighten out people's behavior. Make them responsible for their actions. Don't put up with their bad actions and defend them and blame everything on society and the police. Because that's why you have the police, is because of things people do. Like you're seeing with these looters. And the crime in certain neighborhoods. And the drug dealing and all the other crap. That's why you have police. If you didn't have all that crap, maybe you wouldn't have so many police. Maybe our prisons wouldn't be overflowing. And maybe the incidents that happened, like with George Floyd, wouldn't happen. Do you get the drift? Do you understand that? Is it that hard for people to understand? It starts with you and everybody in your community. Start pointing the finger at the people responsible for the crime. Don't cut them any slack. Start demanding better behavior out of people in your community. You have police because there are people who will not control themselves and their behavior, and who commit crime and deal drugs and all the other crap. That's why you have police. You can't start a fire without a spark. And the people's bad behavior and the crime and the drug gangs and everything, they're the spark. And so eventually something bad is going to happen between the interactions between police and people they're trying to police. The police forces didn't come first and then, because they were there, caused the crime. The crime came first. And more officers and bigger police departments are needed. Is it that hard to understand? So I'm saying, whose fault is it? You can keep pointing the finger at the cops and society and everything else and put the blame everywhere. But until you put it upon the people it belongs on, whether they're white, black, brown, pink with polka dots, whatever it is, you need to start putting your anger, your ire on them. Because it starts with them. If they weren't doing what they are doing and living the types of lives that they're living, you would not have any of this crap happen Very rarely. Because you wouldn't have so much police interactions. You wouldn't have such large police forces. You wouldn't have so many people going into prison. It starts with your behavior. Period. Until this country learns that and starts saying we're not going to accept your excuses anymore for your behavior, we're not going to put up with it anymore. We're going to demand you toe the line and live life like a normal human being and join civilization. And quit living a life of crime. Until you start doing that, you got no right to point the finger anywhere else. You have no right to point the finger anywhere else. What did Jesus say? Get the 2x4 out of your own eye before you try and remove the splinter from somebody else's? Well, it seems to me this society needs to remove the 2x4 from its own eye and start looking at where they should be pointing the blame to. You wouldn't need cops if people would behave right. Can you understand that? Is that too hard for you? It's not rocket science. So, I just wanted to put that out there. To make clear where I'm coming from. I'm not trying to defend bad police officers or excuse what that cop did. If you ask me, he deserves the death penalty. But guess what? Oops, the liberals got rid of all the death penalties. And all the people that are worried, well, he only got third degree and all that. The feds are taking it over. He will be recharged, I guarantee you, with first degree and with committing hate crime. But it's too bad, he won't get a death penalty. But all this crap goes back to personal behavior and our society and what we've come to tolerate and make excuses for. You won't make excuses for the cops. You won't tolerate that, but you'll tolerate the other crap. The crap that's responsible for having a police force. The drug dealers and all the other crap. You'll tolerate that. It starts with people's personal behavior and how they're raised. You got people raising kids up. They teach them the gang hand signs and all that crap when they're like 4 and 5 years old, and they bring them up in that crap. They bring them up in, hate society, hate white people, hate this, hate that. Just no better than the Ku Klux Klan. Bringing their kids up, hate black people. There's no difference. Absolutely no difference. It all starts with personal responsibility and behavior. You are always going to have police as long as you have people in the society that can't get their shit together. And because of that, you will always have incidents like this. Always. No matter how much training you do, no matter how careful the cop is, somewhere one of them's going to make a mistake, or one of them's going to end up being a racist and doing something like this. Add up all the bodies from the gang violence for the past 4 decades and add up all the bodies from police shootings and see which one comes out more. and all the other criminal activity. Add up all the bodies from that, and then all the bodies from police shootings. See which number's greater, and tell me where your anger and where your ire ought to be placed, if you're going to be a truthful human being. Needless loss of life in any form is outrageous. You can't put so much blame and outrage on one type of it and turn a blind eye to the other type. You can't. All right. Gonna get going here. Wish you all the best out there. Be safe. God bless.